everybody, it's Don. I'm joining you from the overflow of Turkey Creek Lake at Shawnee State Park. I'm here as part of a spring nature safari, helping to lead some walks of the natural areas in this vicinity, and I've decided to make an episode of that. So let's go. The spring nature safari is held here at Shawnee every year. It's just a wonderful gathering of naturalists, everyone ranging from professionals to the interested public. There's probably 150 to 160 people here. There's a handful of speakers with the likes of Jim McCormick, Shauna Wayrosh, and Doug Tallamy. And there are a number of field trips that happen during the weekend, and I was helping to co-lead one of those hikes. And what I'll show you today is a few highlights of our hike up to Raven Rock, which is a site about 20 minutes away from the park here near Portsmouth, Ohio. It's a promontory about 500 feet from the Ohio River Valley floor to an overlook, and what you'll see in this episode are some highlights along that walk, and we'll spend a little extra time up at Raven Rock, particularly hearing some information from Dave Todd, who's a longtime professor at Shawnee State University, now retired, who will fill us in on some of the historical aspects of the formation and history of Raven Rock, and I'll fill in some gaps here and there along the way. So let's see a few things that we saw on our walk and hear about Raven Rock once we get to the top. So our hike to Raven Rock today will commence from this point, right along Route 52, along the floodplain of the Ohio River. So if you look across the highway here, first you can see the West Portsmouth High School near you. A long flat floodplain, and the Ohio River would be near the base of those bluffs on the other side. That's Kentucky, but we are in southern Ohio here. I drove about 10 miles from where I introduced this segment, but the trail starts here, right behind me, and it will take, let's see, this trail's a mile and a half, I believe. It's now a meandering trail with some switchbacks, but formerly there was a section of this trail that was probably one of the steeper trails in Ohio. Once you got near Raven Rock, it was, you had to scramble, hands and feet hanging onto trees to get up to the top of Raven's Rock. About 8 years ago or so, they made a different trail that's a lot easier to navigate. So what we're gonna do is take a walk up to the top, and we'll hear a lot about the glacial history of Ohio again, which I talk about in this series a lot, but it really shaped this area. It shaped these bluffs, it shaped this valley, and the Ohio River itself owes its existence to the glaciers. And we'll learn more about that from Dave once we get on top. And I'll show you a few of our biodiversity highlights on the way up, and spend a little bit of extra time up there on top looking at the rock itself and learning a little bit about its geology and cultural history. So let's take a walk. Caught on cam.
Let's probably get warm enough here that they're all headed for breeding too, the bigger ones.
That's real funny. Put the fingerprint on there, yeah.
Cicada appreciation shot. This is a wind appreciation shot. Up on these ridge tops, these trees have to get adapted to this. near the top of the ridge.
So where does the name Raven Rock come from? Charlie Brown, when I was up here with him, said this rock face resembles a raven. So this is like the head of the raven, the beak sticking out. I like to think of a bigger picture of this, back where we were standing where the boundary marker was. If you look out in both directions, the ridge goes out. That's the wings of the raven. We just walked the back of the raven on the trail, and this is the beak of the raven here. So from the air, it kind of resembles a bird, either on small scale or on big scale. Why Raven Rock instead of Turkey Vulture Rock? Because we don't see ravens here, but we see turkey vultures all the time. But I imagine there may have been ravens here at one point, so that may have been the source of the name. So the rock undercutting, you can see that this sticks out. The bridge is undercut. That was done by water, and it was water that was a giant lake back in glacial times. In fact, the first glacier, the glaciers blocked the drainage that was going north at about Chillicothe, and it created a huge lake that's been called Lake Tite. Lake Tite was bigger than Lake Erie is today. It was enormous. I've got some maps to show you of it. And it persisted for thousands of years. So think about a huge lake. This area here would have all been underwater. It would have been a huge lake, and with wave action, it was a big lake, as big as Lake Erie, and that wave action was constantly undercutting the rocks, and that's what created the overhang here, is that wave action from Lake Tite hundreds of thousands of years ago. The subsequent glaciers didn't have that lake. The subsequent glaciers came to a place where the drainage had been changed. The Ohio River was created when that first glacial event ended, and there was tremendous flooding. It breached the divides and cut the Ohio River Valley. So the Ohio River Valley is new. The river there's always been a river out there, but it flowed that way. It flowed up towards Portsmouth, turned north at Portsmouth, and went up around Piketon, Ohio. It met up with the large river system called the Taze River. And the Taze drained Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, into Ohio. The Taze went on north in Ohio, kind of turned west, up around Columbus, and exited Ohio somewhere up in the flatlands of western Ohio. Went across Indiana into Illinois, and then turned south into what is now the Mississippi River basin. So that's a complete change in the drainage that happened because of the glaciations. And that Lake Tite that formed, we would have been on riverfront property here, that Lake Tite that formed that huge lake was right here, and it did the undercutting of the rocks. This natural bridge is not the first one. If you step out here, without going too far, you can see that there's it's not quite as easy to see with the leaves, but there's a point of rock over there. There used to be a bridge that came out across here. So it's collapsed. This one will someday collapse, and there's a new bridge forming right here. So the natural bridges that form Raven Rock have gone through a series of changes also. As I said, I hiked this, it would have been the 2014-2015. I hiked it every month to see the changes in the seasons. So this is a summer picture of the view from Raven Rock, kind of like we're looking at now. Pretty green. Maybe the farmland hadn't greened up yet. And this is in March when it flooded.
Oh, wow.
And The school is actually on fill. They brought the land up about 20 feet to build the school above the historic recorded flood level. But you can see from the flooding here that park down there, Riverside Park, is mostly flooded. There's a big shelter house. If you get over here, you can see it. That's completely surrounded by water from the flooding, and that's kind of an annual event. That happens every year here, that we get the winter or spring flooding. You can see just from the rain we've had recently that the area in the bottoms there is filled up with water. That was dry just a week ago, and this rain has filled it up. Should be turkey vulture rock. The turkey vultures just flew over, and I see them every time I come up here, but we'll stick with Raven Rock. I think, a winter. Yeah, there's a winter picture when things are brown. There's very little green, and there's really dramatic change in the seasons here. You can really see Portsmouth from here in the winter. We can see it now. They've kept it kind of open, but when the leaves aren't on the trees, you can really see Portsmouth, the two bridges of Portsmouth, and the Scioto River Valley, where it comes into the Ohio River Valley. Martin McAllister, I said, was the preserve manager when this preserve was created. He developed a relationship with Charlie Brown, and Charlie wanted the land preserved. He had no living relatives, and he wanted this land because it was sacred to him. He wanted it preserved for future generations, and with Martin's help, he realized that dedicating it as a state nature preserve would be a good way to preserve the land into the future. Martin created the display that's back there, and I'd encourage you to take a look at that. It talks about some of the Indian heritage in the area and about the Taze River. Martin retired from Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and I've got the copy of the DNAP newsletter. The year he retired, he was actually working for Parks at this point, because DNAP had been folded under Parks, but he retired and went to work for the Nature Conservancy, which he's still doing. Martin's a little younger than mine. In fact, he was one of my students, so Martin's one of those students that I point to. Look at the good work that I did there. Yeah, I'm really proud of what he's done with his career. So just imagine that we're standing at the edge of a big lake. That's just hard to conceive. A lake that would have been 400 or 500 feet deep, would have been miles across. It would have covered 700,000 square miles in Kentucky, West Virginia, and Ohio at the peak of the glaciation. That glacier going north was almost a mile thick up around Chillicothe. So it's no wonder the water got backed up. But there are glacial lakes like that other places in the world today, and this is just one that we see the after effects of that glacial lake today with the undercutting of the rock. I've got some maps for anyone that wants to look at it closer. This is the lake, one rendition of it. The one picture shows the lake with the glacier in green, the unglaciated in yellow, and lake tight here. And then this is a larger view of Lake Tight, and another view of Lake Tight. This area behind us would have been above the lake level. So it had little islands in the lake that stuck up above the level of the lake. The thing that determined the level of the lake is, where can it drain? And the drainage was down towards Manchester, Ohio. So that was the last divide. My geology friend Kurt Shoemaker said there were at least 5 divides along the Ohio River that had to be broken through to create the Ohio River. But the last one was the kind of headwaters of the old Portsmouth River that flowed this way down by Maidstone. When it broke through and the glaciers melted, just the flooding cut that channel deeper and deeper and created the present-day Ohio River. So pretty amazing natural history of this particular area. This is Portsmouth, where we're looking today, during the 1937 flood, which is the biggest flood in recorded human history in this river valley. This is the same view with Lake Tyke. So basically, everything is underwater. And this would have been hundreds of thousands of years ago. This isn't anything in the immediate past, but it's still left its evidence today through the geology and deposits. The lake was there long enough that there are clay lake deposits that are actually mined out by Minford and turned into fire brick today. So the economic resource created by Lake Tyke carries on today.
Interesting.
So I appreciate you all enduring the hike to get up here. I think the view is spectacular,
it's awesome.
and the history of it is just kind of unbelievable. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank
There's
you.
a skink on that tree out while,
yeah.
while
There's a
we're...
fence lizard right down there.
That's what everybody was paying attention to.
Yep.
Yeah. I can't tell for sure, but I'm guessing a male broadhead.
I'm going to try to get him on camera.
Lines. He seems pretty chilled out.
I've seen the broadhead, the fence lizard, and the 5-line skinks up here. I've seen all of them on the top of the rock here. So this is a good reptile habitat.
Yep, very cool.
Yeah, it's warm.
As Don mentioned, if you go underneath the rock, this was a popular tourist attraction back in the late 1800s and early 2000s, and there are people that took the time to engrave their names, their initials, and the date under the rock, and some of it's very professional type graving. They must have had some good tools to do the graving. It's not just scratched in with a penknife. It's some interesting graving. So you're welcome to explore under the rock. You can go down over by the bridge. It's fairly easy to get down. We also can eat lunch here if you like. There's a bench up here. We'll spend a half hour, 45 minutes here before we start back down.
I'll join you below that. It's the arch at Raven Rock.
Somebody's not so ancient.
This is under Raven Rock. More Raven Rock. Above is the promontory that people stand on. There have been people visiting this site for thousands of years, and graffiti carvings that go back at least 150 years or more that I've seen. Perched about 500 feet above the valley floor. And these rocks are Mississippian age rocks, 300 million year old sandstones. Here's some intricate carvings. They're getting scratched a little bit But this one goes back to 1843. This little carving. Seth Smith, 1843. And there are others around. Some of this has now been defaced, but still quite interesting.
Yeah, that tree right there. Actually comes up.
I learned about it through geocaching. My grandson was into geocaching, so we found, well, here's a geocache site close to Raven Rock. Let's check it out. And so we went to and found this sycamore tree that's huge and old. We found the geocache bag and noted our presence and made an exchange. But it said in the information that there at one point were over 200 white prisoners at that tree, and that's where they were killed, and therefore they named the massacre tree.
Wow.
Whether there's any truth to that story or not, I don't know, but it makes a good legend.
And is that tree still there, as far as
The
you
tree's
know?
still there.
Yeah.
It's a huge sycamore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still right here. It's part of the county property that across from the Riverside Park.
Very cool. This is a blackjack oak, Ohio's rarest oak species, which is identifiable by a very interesting leaf shape, which we've determined by etymology that it's based on the little club-like weapon called a blackjack. So this is blackjack oak, Quercus marylandica, and this is a pretty big one. They're a small oak tree, and they don't get a whole lot bigger than that, perched right up here on Raven Rock. Well, that'll conclude our hike to Raven Rock on the Shawnee Wildlife Safari. And till next time, this is Don signing off, along with that cicada, overlooking the mighty Ohio River near Portsmouth, Ohio. Take care. Bye-bye.